Hey, so I want you to take a second to get really comfortable before you watch this video. And pause the video if you need to right now, but I want to make sure that you're in a spot where you can really focus in on everything that I'm saying. So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I've been scalping GBP/JPY for roughly the past month. And it kind of builds upon everything that I've learned for the past 4 months, learning how to trade GBP/JPY. It's quite a non-intuitive, quite against the grain approach, and as you'll see here momentarily. So I'm going to get started, and all I'm going to be doing is saying that the way that I trade JPY is simply just looking at support and resistance zones, figuring out where price is likely to bounce at, and then entering positions where I think price might bounce at. And if price bounces there, then I'll take profits at the next zone that I see on the chart. And if price doesn't bounce where my first entry is, then I'll wait for price to get to the next zone in drawdown against my position. I'll wait for it to get to the next zone where it's likely to bounce at, and then I'll decide whether or not to enter there. Okay, it's very intuitive, and it requires a lot of discretion and experience to make this work. So I'm going to show you some of the trades that I've taken along with the logic behind it. I'm going to start with when I took my road trip to Austin, Texas a couple days ago. I got back on this past Saturday, so a couple days ago. But I was trading GBP/JPY throughout that trip. There was a little bit lower volume around New Year's, but still enough time to get some decent trades in. And a lot of the trades I've actually taken are not here on the chart. I've got a couple of them here scattered throughout, but a lot of these trades, like I'm in and out. I'm in multiple positions. I'm hedging. Sometimes I'm scaling in, scaling out. It just all depends on what's going on for that specific day. So what we're going to do here is we're going to look at the trades that I've taken, and I'll walk you through my logic behind them. So this is one of the trades that I took. So this would have been December 31st. So this would have been like New Year's Eve in the morning during New York session. Yeah. So price on GBP/JPY had come to this 1 hour resistance zone. So we'd had two bounces right here before. We had one bounce right here and a second bounce right here. I entered a sell as soon as price got to this zone, thinking that price was going to reverse right here. Now the position sizing will be relatively small based on the account size. The way that I do this is I'll start a very small account, usually between 1,000 to 3,000 US dollars. And what I'll do is I'll start with a position size of around 1.0 standard lots, and I'll work my way up to 2 lots, 3 lots, 4 lots, 5 lots, until the account essentially gets to between $10,000 and $15,000. Then I'll withdraw the account back to around 3K, and then I'll just do this over and over and over again on repeat. Every now and then I will blow an account, but the profits that I make for whenever I do have a good run of consecutive winning trades, those ones will outweigh all the losses that I have. So I'm okay with losing like 1 or 2 accounts per month if it means that I've taken that account up from 3K to 15K a couple times before the account eventually blows. And as long as I've withdrawn and taken some of my profits out, then I'll still come out on top like 20, 30, 40K. So that being said, right here, if I was on like a $1,000 account or even a $3,000 account, I'll usually just start with a 1.0 standard lots, and then I'll scale in. I'll add another standard lot, or I'll scale out as it goes into profit to the next zone, things like that. I'll show you what I did. So I entered a sell right here, and we're going to look at what happened. So after I entered the sell, you'll see that price immediately went into profit. So it went into profit, but then it pushed back up against my position. So after that, it flew back into profit, and I thought that right here price was going to continue going down all the way to this next zone. So I was looking to get out a little bit of my position somewhere around here, and then a little bit of my position further if it came all the way to that previous low. And that didn't happen. Price went into profit, pushed back up against my position, pushed up really high, closed above this zone in the minute 15. Then it came back into this zone and tested. So if you'll see, what I did here is whenever price came back into this zone, I closed my sell position at break even. It was actually a tiny loss. It was I think it was like minus $100 or something like that. But I essentially closed it when it came back into this area and bounced. And then what I did is I entered a buy position, thinking that instead of this zone holding as resistance, well, now that price is broken above it, I thought that price was just going to test it as support and then bounce up. So I flipped around my bias based on what price did here at the zone. The sell didn't work out. and I entered a buy after just broke and retested the zone. Because if it was going to bounce as resistance, it probably would have done it right there. So the fact that the sell didn't work made me want to go into buys, thinking that, all right, price is now above the zone. Maybe, here on this retest and this little bounce that it's had, perhaps it'll just continue going up away from the zone. Simple break and retest setup. So that one ended up working out. This one ended up pushing all the way up here. I ended up closing right here around 155.9. Then price pushed up a little bit past where I would have entered at. And then after that, it rejected this zone. After it rejected it on that candle right here at 155.95, and this is just like a 1 hour, 4 hour zone up here if you go to the 4 hour time frame. After price rejected this area, I entered a sell, and then price went into profit. So this was good. It pushed up a little bit, came down, and it kept on doing this stuff. And whenever it came down in here, it was getting close to the end of the session. I closed the sell right here. My target was this next zone, which was achieved, but I wanted to get out before Asian session, so I just exited it right here. So these were the trades that I've taken here on New Year's Eve. And if you'll notice something about this is that I wasn't even right about what was going to occur, but I still made money. And why? All it was is just because I simply entered the market at a logical area where I thought it would bounce. It's perfectly logical to think that price is going to bounce at this resistance zone because it's had two huge bounces off it before. And I stayed in that position until it was no longer logical to stay in it. When price broke and closed above this zone in the minute 15, minute 30, I started to think, okay, well, it's not so logical to stay in this anymore because we've already tried to bounce here 1, 2 times, and now we've broken above this area, and then and it wasn't holding as resistance. Otherwise, usually if you're right, it'll just go right into profit, kind of like how this trade did. And so the logical way to manage this trade was, okay, it's pushed up, it's had a bullish push, it's come back to the zone, it's tested, and it started to bounce here on the minute 5. So I thought the most logical thing to do in that case was just to close the sell out, probably not going to work, and instead enter a buy. Because if the sells didn't work here and price is broken above and it's retested and it's bounced, it's likely going to try to push up from here. So I did that, and this trade worked out very quickly, like within 10 minutes, it went all the way to the target. This is a really good trade right here. I made like $1,200 on this trade alone. And then this one right here was a little bit less. I think it was like 800 or it was like 890, but it was still a good trade. So this trade, break and retest up the next logical area. This is an H1 resistance area. It's an H4 or an H1, and you can see them both on that time frame. But essentially came here, started to bounce. I thought, all right, if price is going to bounce here, it'll probably do it here. It's a really good entry. So I entered a position right there. I didn't enter any second positions. It just ended up coming down, had a little bounce, then I closed it down here. Came here, had a bounce, then I closed it right here. How I would have managed this if the sell didn't work out is if price would have pushed up from here against my position, I would have waited for it to start like flattening out. Then I would have entered a second sell. And then if it would have come back down here into the zone, I would have closed that sell right there in profit. And I would have closed my first sell at break even. Then I probably would have entered a buy right there. And if the buy works out, cool, it will half the time. The other half the time it won't work out. It'll break back below the zone. And then when it pushes back up to the zone, you can just close the buy around break even or a small loss, or in some cases even a small profit. Then you can just flip around the bias again and take sells away from the zone. It's all contingent on what happens at the zone. And for these trades, I had no hard stops. It was all based on just managing the position based on what had occurred. So this was the next morning. So price kind of ranged throughout throughout Asian session. I'm trying to show the sessions here, but the indicator's not working. Okay. So this was a Asian session. This was New York session. I'm asleep at that time. Woke up the next morning a little bit before New York session started. I wake up around 5:30, 6 a.m., even on vacations to trade. And I noticed that what price had done right here is it had broken back below this 1 hour support resistance zone. So it's this area right here. Price had broken back below that area. It had come to retest this area. And on that retest, it had started to reject. So I caught it when price was like down here. So this is where I woke up and saw price. So I thought, okay, if price is going to hold at this area, it's probably going to continue from this zone, probably down to like that low. So my original target was like down in here. So what I did is I ended up just entering a sell position right there at the current market price where it was at. A better entry would have been up here, but that's fine. So, and what I did is after price went right here, it kind of went sideways for about like 30 minutes. Then it had a quick run into profit. And this was like a pretty big profit for me. So it was like $1,400 or me see how big this was right here. Yeah, it was about $1,400 profit. And so after this first little push up right here, I ended up just closing that because this was like an easy move. Literally in like 20 minutes after it got moving, it was like in huge profit. So I figured I can like sit through a pullback, which will likely occur, and I can hold to see if it's the target, or I can just close right here. And so that's what happened. So it did come back up to here. Another position could have been right here for sells, but I was walking around downtown Austin right here with Bonnie. We were going to get coffee in the morning, and so I wasn't able to catch this trade right here. Otherwise, it would have been another nice sell. But even if I wouldn't have closed it here, it would have come all the way back to around the entry. I would have remained in the trade unless something like this would have happened. Then I would have entered another sell at the next zone, waited for it to come back to the zone, close that sell and profit, and then close this sell around break even or a small loss. And that's how I would have managed it. But yeah, I mean, so this is a good trade. Another trade that I took was right here. Whenever price came all the way down to this zone right here, this was when we got back to our condo. We sit on the 30th floor of this place called 70 Rainy Street in Austin, Texas. A really nice condo. But after price started to bounce right here, I entered a buy. And the reason I did is because this right here was a pretty clear support level. Price had bounced 1, 2, 3, kind of 4 times right there, but not really all the way in. So we'll just say 4 times right there. So 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So already had 3 nice bounces, kind of one right there. And I was thinking that price might bounce right there for a 4th time. So it did. I entered a buy right there. My position management, if that hadn't worked out, would have been to have waited for it to like fall below the zone. And then when it started to turn back around, if that would have happened, then I would have entered another buy. And then I would have taken the buys like with the momentum into the zone. I would have closed that buy and profit at the zone if it came there to retest. And then I would have got out of this buy at break even. So even if I would have been wrong about it bouncing right there, I still would have made money profiting off this scenario. So that's how it's like, it's kind of an interesting way, because even if you're wrong and you fuck it up, like you can still make money like almost every time. This doesn't work every time, and I'll show you guys a big loss that I took today. It actually wasn't even that big of a loss, but it's like the first real loss that I've had in like 3 weeks, and it wasn't even that big of a deal. And then I made like half of it back right after that, so I'll show you guys that. But I took this buy. I personally thought price was going to continue down, but it didn't. It ended up continuing up like quite a bit. So yeah, it kept running up. So this is I'm back in Texas. It's January 4th, so this was like, I think this was yesterday, right? Yeah, so it was yesterday. So yesterday price had come to this 4-hour resistance zone. And what this was is the original zone was like something like that. And I just dragged it up based on what happened today. But initially this was the zone. So I thought it was going to bounce there for sells. So I entered a sell yesterday morning right here, thinking that price was going to continue from this zone down like back to like pretty much that zone, pretty much these lows. So that never happened. What ended up happening is price broke above this area, came back, and then it started to bounce right here as support. So what I did is after it pushed above these recent highs that were formed and started to find support here and started bouncing, I took a step back and I looked at this logically and I thought, all right, how many times has price had the opportunity to reverse as resistance from here? And I looked and I saw there's this candle, it's once, this candle 2 times, pushed up again, started coming down, it's the 3rd time, pushed up again. This is like a 4th time it tried, but it didn't. Then it's had like a 5th try right here to reverse, and it hasn't, and it just kept making higher lows. So I started looking at that like with a big question mark in my brain, thinking like, yeah, I don't think this sell's going to work out. So I closed the sell right there at a round break. It was a small loss. It was like $200 loss. And instead, I waited to see it. I was like, all right, price is broken above these highs, tested, bounced the support. I was like, if it breaks this high right here, I'm going to take it as a trade to profit on price pushing through the level and continuing up to the next H4 level up here. So I waited for the little high right here to be broken on the minute 5, minute 3, minute 1, whatever you want to call it. It did break the highs, and as soon as it broke the highs, I just entered the buy. So my entry was right there, ended up pushing up, came back, found support twice, and then it ended up continuing up. I held this all the way up through here. And this is one of the ones that I called yesterday in the group chat to you guys, for those of you who are in the full program in Discord. I called this one out and it ran all the way up to the top here. And then I also called this sell right here. So I got out of this buy. My initial target was up here, but I ended up closing it after a couple of these wicks happened. I ended up closing it after it spiked back up to the previous wicks because I thought it might reverse a little bit early. So I ended up doing that, but then it ended up continuing back up to the zone where my original target was. So I missed out on a little bit of profits, but this was still a really good trade. It was still fine. And then price pushed up into this zone. I actually had a sell limit here. If you guys read back through the Discord and scalp trading, I told you guys I had a sell limit right here at 0.3. So it was 157.3. Well, no, it was 0.37. What you can read through the Discord, but I had this sell limit right here. It hit the sell limit perfectly, came into profit, made a higher low, came back and retested this zone again, and I held it. I still thought this would work out because this was like a pretty clear zone. I would have closed this trade if it would have like broken above and started to bounce right here. And then I would have just got out of the sell at around break even and probably took a buy for continuations up. But that didn't happen. It ended up coming back to my entry and then ended up rocketing down in 1 5-minute candle into quick profits. So what I did is I thought, okay, I can continue holding this like all the way down to this next zone. But we did have a really strong trend yesterday. And then on top of that, this move literally, like this happened in literally like 1 5-minute candle. And so I started thinking, I was like, the logical thing to do might be like, this was an easy fucking trade. Like it didn't give me any drawdown really. It went into profit, came back to the entry, then went into huge profit right here. So I just thought, okay, I think I'm just going to close the trade right there. So I ended up just getting out right there and said, whatever happens, happens. It was like, this was like 10 a.m. yesterday. And so I was like, okay, this has been a good trading session already. I had one break even, one huge winner, and then I've had this other winner, which got halfway to the target. So I just ended up taking profits there and left it alone. So I ended up coming to test the zone again. And then later it continued going all the way back down to the zone during London session. Of course, I wouldn't have wanted to have holded the trade. I would not have wanted to have held the trade for that long just because I like being in and out because it's so much easier. It's so much quicker. It's less mental stress. But this ended up taking like the rest of New York session, half of Asian session before it ended up coming down into here. So like maybe a third of Asian session. So this still ended up hitting the target, but I was happy to have been out with profits right there. And then I didn't have to watch anything the rest of New York session yesterday, sit through the fucking swap fees and the huge spreads right here in Asian session and holding it all the way down there, crossing my fingers, hoping it's going to go. So I was happy with closing it there, but it did continue the original profit target. So this was all New York session. This was all London session and Asian session. I woke up this morning right here, right when price was right here. So I'll show you what I did this morning. And this is where I took I want to say a big loss, but it really wasn't even that. It wiped out like a day's worth of trading profits. But even then, it was just like $2,000 that I lost. And then I made like 900 back on this move down right here. So I'll show you guys the trades that I took today. So what I did is I thought price was personally going to continue down. We were making lower highs and lower lows. It kind of looked like a downtrend channel was forming. So what I did is when price got to this level right here this morning, I just took a sell. So I took a sell right there. And then what happened is price pushed up into this next zone here. So I took a second sell and then it came back into this zone. So normally what I would do is I would close my positions right there after I've had the first position and drawdown and the second position was profitable. But I really thought this was going to continue going and make a lower low, at least down to this next 4-hour zone. So instead I ended up holding this and I'm perfectly happy with that decision. Everything looked great this morning. So we had price come to this zone, start going sideways. Everything looked fine. The first position was break even. Second position was in profit. And then we had a dip further down here. So right there, it ended up pushing back up to this zone. I entered a third sell right there. So then it came down. I thought it was going to break through this zone, but it didn't. Price ended up just going sideways right here, bouncing up and down. Throughout all of this shit, I started getting a little bit uncomfortable. Multiple times I was telling myself, I was like, this is weird. I'm usually never uncomfortable when I'm in a trade. The fact that I'm uncomfortable might mean that I should probably get out or maybe trim my position sizing down because I was in 3 positions all clustered up here right within 20 pips of each other. But I didn't. I ignored that feeling. To close it and I just held it because I really thought, especially with how all these wicks were closing, all of it was bearish wicks in the 15 and 5 minute. 1 minute just kept on hammering down the support. I was like, no, it's going to break. I shouldn't. I'm just getting a little bit emotional because I'm in 3 full position sizes. But even then the account's grown from 1K to I think it's $8,000 right now, or maybe $7,000 after today. but still, it's grown from 1K to 7K. I was like, it's fine. If this wins, it'll take the account to 10K or more and it'll be a great trade. And if not, whatever. So what ended up happening is price pushed up into here. So after it pushed up, it broke through this zone and it came up to this next resistance area. Now, normally I'd enter a sell right there if I was already in a sell here, which I was. However, I was already in my first or my second position for a sell right there. Because remember, I had a sell here, a sell right here, and then a sell right there again after it broke and retested. I entered a sell on the retest. So I was already in 3 positions. So I ended up leaving this alone, and these all went into drawdown. So when it came back into here, this was roughly break even, and this is where I made, I want to call it a mistake, but my intuition told me to close everything here. This was like right around break even. This position was in a small loss. This position was in like break even, and this position was in profit. So it was like break even, like small profit type situation. Then it started pushing up. So then I started looking at this and I was like, okay, we've had a bottom here, we've had higher lows here, and this might be the next higher low. So I was looking at this and I was like, fuck, man, like, is this shit gonna go? Or, why is it should have bounced right there. Why is it testing this zone twice? All my intuitions were telling me, hey, man, you should probably get the fuck out of the trade. And you should probably switch your bias to longs, which on most days, that's probably what I would have done. This morning, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't close the trades here. I didn't. So I held all these trades. And what they did is, so keep in mind, I had a position here, then a position right here. Whenever price tested here and started to bounce, this broke up through here. Well, Bitcoin's crashing. I guess we can look at that here in a second. So then price pushed up above here. It came back into here, and I went ahead and exited that position right there, the second entry that I had earlier in the morning around 7 a.m. I closed that position there at break even, but I was still stuck in these 2 fucking positions here around 156.9. And I ended up holding those. I was just like, I was thinking like kind of crossing my fingers, maybe it'll bounce at this resistance. And then if it comes back down, maybe like right here, I'll get out of those at small loss or hopefully maybe break even or whatever. That didn't fucking happen. Price ended up just ripping up. Normally in these situations, I would have been fucking entering a buy right there. What I should have done is just closed all my positions there. It would have been like small losing trades. Like this would have break even. And then these 2 positions around 0.9 would have been a small loss. And then I could have entered a buy and ran this up, right? But, hey, it is what it is. So I ignored all the next zones because I was already in drawdown for sells. And I was waiting for the next likely area that I thought price was going to bounce at. So the next likely area there's a couple of them. There was like these highs right here, but price just pushed straight through them and closed with a strong bullish like minute 15 candle and minute 5 candle. Then price tested and broke the highs, and I was like, okay, fuck that. I'm not going to take a sell right there. And I was looking, all right, where else can I scale in at? And I was like, all right, at these previous highs up here, it's like a 1 hour resistance zone if you go to the 1 hour. And when price got to that zone, it got a little bit before the zone and started bouncing. Didn't do anything there. I waited till I had alert literally up at this previous high up here. So I wanted to make sure that these highs were actually achieved. And that happened. So it got up to these previous highs, but it closed with a fucking strong minute 5 candle and then a strong minute 15 candle up. So what I ended up doing is on the close into this zone like that, when this candle started opening like that, pushing above and closed right there, I just chopped all the positions out. So I exited these 2 positions down here at like a pretty substantial loss. Like it wiped out like literally like the entire like yesterday's profits of trading. So, it is what it is. I could have managed it differently, but I didn't for whatever reason. And I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I've had like literally every single day I've been trading GJ for the past 3 weeks has been profitable except today. And even today I'm only down like just literally like 1K, like 1100 or 900 or 1100. I'd have to look on my terminal, but it's like barely anything compared to what I can make on a good day. Like 1K to 2K to 3K on a good day. So I'm happy with today. It was fine. So I ended up closing this shit. I drew up the next 1 hour zone, which if we go to the 1 hour chart, you can see these next 1 hour highs. Yeah, hopefully GJ doesn't freeze up on me. So you can see these highs right here is what I was looking at. If you see right here, 157.7. So these highs. So I just extended a resistance zone all the way over to the current market price. Had an alert sitting there. I was out shopping at the grocery store when that happened, and price did get up into that area. So once price got up into that area here in the minute 5, I waited for it to reject, tried to go back up above again, rejected a little bit, rejected a little bit. Then when it cracked the low right there and started turning back around, I thought that this might be logical enough to say, okay, we've hit this zone, we've started slowing down, now we're turning back around. I was like, I'm going to enter a sell. So I entered a sell, went into profit, came back, tested the entry, and then it pushed down into here. And then whenever it pushed down into here and started pushing up, this is where I closed this trade. And I put it in the Discord too so you guys could see it. And it looks like it's still trying to go lower. We did have a bounce there, but it's still trying to go lower. So in this trade right here, brought back like pretty much half of what I lost on the way up from all the positions here and then closing them like up there. This brought back pretty much like half of all that shit. So still not a terrible day, but you know, not a profitable day. The first one in 3 weeks that's not been profitable. And if you'll notice something about like, because we're here to the end of the video now, if you'll notice something, nothing about this trading system is objective. Nothing about it is data tested outside of my own personal experience, which I know fucking clearly obviously works for me if almost every day's been profitable for 3 weeks straight. And I've been trading on live sessions with you guys and calling these trades out in Discord and trading with you guys, and we've all been looking at GJ together. Like most of these trades like I've shared with you guys, and it's just like, but there's no like, I don't have a trading journal for this. I don't have any type of way to objectively say what type of trading system it is. Like it's not a trend trading system, but I do trade trends within it. It's not like a range trading system, but I do trade of prices and ranges. It's not just a small bounce of support because sometimes I'll hold trades for longer depending on what's happening. It's literally just looking at the charts, like getting into positions where I think price is likely to bounce at, and then managing those positions based on what occurs at the zones while price is there. And so, yeah, it's the only way I can say if you guys are trying to learn how to do something like this is you have to get experience. Like I've watched GJ, like just the same thing over and over every day for like the past 4 months now to get a good feel for all this. And I mean, it's been a cool journey, but this is literally, I mean, it's a skill. There's no way I could like in my right mind try to say that this is a science and I can objectively teach you exactly how to do this, because there are some days where like today, like, you know, here where I fucked up, where I had an opportunity to get out of my trades at break even there, but I didn't, because I was like, man, if it could just pull down here to this next zone, I'll make like, you know, like $800. That'll be good. And if it pulls all the way down here, I'll make like fucking $3,000. And it was that, call it greed, you know, whatever the fuck you want. Like I should have just been like, yeah, if this was going to fucking work, it would have worked for there. It would have worked here, but it didn't. It pushed up, and it's giving me an opportunity to exit, and it's giving me an opportunity to buy here and right there. But I didn't listen to my gut. I didn't listen to my intuition. I didn't listen to that weird kind of uncomfortable feeling I had where I was like, I really don't think I should be in these cells anymore. And this is like the fucking one day I didn't listen to my intuition in the past 3 weeks, and it resulted in this, you know, like a nice size loss today. So all I can say, guys, is get experience doing this. Watch the same thing over and over again. Don't try to copy anybody else's trades or trading systems. Don't try to understand why somebody else took trades. What you should do is you should just take time for just you and the charts and really get kind of fused to the charts and get fused to what that pair is doing, and just watch it over and over and over, day after day, week after week, month after month. You will, after a time, begin to develop this sort of instinct for trading that pair. And you will develop this skill set that you're able to use just over and over. And you'll be able to just like follow the pair around to profit off of whatever happens. You know, you don't even, like I said, you don't even have to be right. Like price could bounce at a resistance zone, but if it goes into drawdown and you enter at the next resistance zone, then it bounces from there. Cool, you know, now you profited on the second trade and you closed the first one at break even. You were not even fucking right, but you still made money. And that'll happen like, you know, like 95% of the time. Like almost every single one of my trades are either a really nice winner or a small profit or a break even or a tiny loss that's essentially break even. Very few of my trades are actual losers. And when they are losers, you know, whatever, cost me maybe $1, $2, $3 usually. And it'll, like I said, sometimes it'll blow the account. Like I'll take an account from 3K to 15K, withdraw like, you know, 10K or whatever, get the account back to 3K, and then, or in some cases even lower than that, but like, let's say like 3K or whatever, 3,500, start trading it up from there. I'll make profits up to like maybe, let's say 5K. and then I'll fuck up something and lose like half the account. Then it's like 2,500, and then I'll fuck up the next few trades or something, and I'll lose like the 2,500's now down to like 1,500 or 1,000, you know, and then I'll just start over. I'll put like 2K into the account to get it back to 3K, and then I'll just start over. I'll try again. But yeah, it's really cool to have a system where you can be right almost every time simply by getting into trades where price is likely to bounce at, and then managing those open trades, like closing them at break even, entering scaling in second positions, profiting off the second position, getting out of the first one at break even, and just looking at the areas where price is really likely to have a reaction at. And then if it doesn't, cool, you manage the trade. Look for the next area price will bounce at. Get in there. If it starts bouncing there, cool. Then you get out of that first trade at break even, close the second one and profit. Hold trades that you think are likely to continue to like major zones. There's going to be some days where you fuck it up. But even then today, like I could have taken the account, it was like 6,900 a day. I could have taken it to like probably close to 10K if it would have actually hit this profit target. Because that would have been like a nice, like from my average entry point all the way down to here. I mean, that would have been like fucking 50 pips. Like, yeah, that would have easily been like fucking like at 6 lots total. That would have been like fucking $3,000. You know, but it didn't happen. Fuck it. You know, it's fine. Whatever. It is what it is. So I wanted to make this video because a lot of you guys have been asking me about this. So here it is. This is the way I've been trading GJ. It completely breaks all the rules of every trading system ever. It's just intuitively trading based on experience. That's all this is. So I invite you to get that experience trading a pair. Focus on one thing when you're scalping at least. Swing trading is entirely different. That doesn't apply here. But at least when you're scalping and you're doing the intraday moves, get a lot of experience with it and let your intuition guide you into and out of trades. Follow where the market's going, not where you want the market to go. And use that experience to rely on it going forward so that you can have literally almost every day profitable, even if you're wrong about the trade. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Be doing more live sessions soon. We're about to switch over Mission FX to the new structure, which it's not going to change for you guys. It'll just change for new people coming into Mission FX. Like price is raising and people will have to apply for the program now and a bunch of other shit. So, but yeah, so we're rolling all that out. Really excited about this new year here in 2022 to learn and grow with you all. And I hope you guys continue to learn and grow with me and everyone here at Mission FX as well. Cheers, everyone. Bye.